Hey there, everybody. I'm back. We are once again in Suetonius' 12 Caesars. And I left off last time with paragraph 32, which ended literally with Caesar saying the die is cast. So these next few paragraphs are thicker than the last ones I read. It's been a few weeks, but I'm hoping to try to knock some of this out because now we're in March. And for those of you who know, we know that March is coming up to be the 15th, the Ides of March. That's the day in 44 BCE that our guy got. So I'll try to see how much of Julius Caesar I can get out before we get to that date. Cool. If you haven't looked at any other ones before, go back and start with chapter one or paragraph one. I'm reading this for the first time, so these future paragraphs I've never looked at. I'm going to take them, give basic opinions on them. That's it. Leave it where it is. And anybody wants to comment, feel free. I'm hoping this reaches anyone who's classicist, but I mean, they would have know this stuff anyway. But I'm always open to anybody correcting me because I'm new to all this. I've said in other videos I take Latin and grammar through the Helen McVeigh Classes Academy, along with some of the history classes they have. They're all really great. I highly recommend them. But I'm new to most of the classical readings. So this is for people like me who are blue collar, not academics, didn't graduate from college, but who still also love to read and maybe were curious about history but only know what they've heard. And I'm hoping that seeing me read it will encourage you to want to read it. So without further ado, I'm going to jump back in here and start with paragraph 33. Accordingly, having marched his army over the river, he showed them the tribunes of the people, who, upon their being driven from the city, had come to meet him, and in the presence of that assembly called upon the troops to pledge him their fidelity, with tears in his eyes, and his garment rent from his bosom. It has been supposed that upon this occasion he promised to every soldier a knight's estate. Okay. That's a lot of soldiers, bro. That's all right. But that opinion is founded on a mistake. Yeah. For when in his harangue to them, he frequently held out a finger of his left hand and declared that to recompense those who should support him in the defense of his honor, he would willingly part even with his ring. The soldiers at a distance, who could more easily see than hear him while he spoke, formed their conception of what he said by the eye, not by the ear, and accordingly gave out that he had promised to each of them the privilege of wearing the gold ring and an estate of 400,000 sesterces. Yes, I don't know exactly what 400,000 sesterces worth of estate that's going to be, but I'm going to imagine that that's a lot. I'm going to imagine this is the basic American equivalent of a 40 acres and a mule jive that he's kicking to them. But okay. Paragraph 34. Of his subsequent proceedings, I shall give a cursory detail, in the order in which they occurred. He took possession of Picenum, Umbria, and Etruria, and having obliged Lucius Domitius, who had tumultuously nominated his successor, and held Corsinium with a garrison, to surrender, and dismissed him, he marched along the coast of the Upper Sea to Brundusium, to which place the consuls and Pompey were fled with the intention of crossing the sea as soon as possible. After vain attempts by all the obstacles he could oppose to prevent their leaving the harbor, he turned his steps toward Rome, where he appealed to the Senate on the present state of public affairs, and then set out for Spain, in which province Pompey had a numerous army, under the command of three lieutenants, Marcus Petreius, Lucius Afranius, and Marcus Varro, declaring amongst his friends before he set forward that he was going against an army without a general, and should return thence against a general without an army. Although his progress was retarded both by the siege of Marseilles, which shut her gates against him, and a very great scarcity of corn, yet in a short time he bore down all before him. So this is, again, this is Caesar against Pompey. So this is general versus general, two of the most famous men in Rome and in the empire at that time, now going against one another. So this is effectively one of Rome's many civil wars. Um, I don't know. I'd have to ask somebody. Do we call this a civil war if it's just the two of them duking it out, and everyone else is just waiting to see who wins? Because it's not. is it technically the state versus itself, or is it just these two generals? I have to ask somebody that. Paragraph 35. Thence he returned to Rome and crossing the sea to Macedonia, blocked up Pompey during almost 4 months, with a line of ramparts of prodigious extent, and at last defeated him in the battle of Pharsalia. Pursuing him in his flight to Alexandria, where he was informed of his murder, he presently found himself also engaged, under all the disadvantages of time and place, in a very dangerous war with King Ptolemy, who, he saw, had treacherous designs upon his life. It was winter, and he, within the walls of a well provided and subtle enemy, was destitute of everything, and wholly unprepared for such a conflict. He succeeded, however, in his enterprise and put the kingdom of Egypt into the hands of Cleopatra and her younger brother, being afraid to make it a province, lest, under an aspiring prefect, it might become the center of revolt. From Alexandria he went into Syria, and thence to Pontus, induced by intelligence which he had received respecting Pharmaces. That's Pharnaces, I think. The prince, who was son of the great Mithridates, had seized the opportunity which the distraction of the times offered for making war upon his neighbors, and his insolence and fierceness had grown with his success. Caesar, however, within 5 days after entering his country, and 4 hours after coming in sight of him, overthrew him in one decisive battle. Upon which he frequently remarked to those about him the good fortune of Pompey, who had obtained his military reputation chiefly by victory over so feeble an enemy. He afterwards defeated Scipio and Juba, who were rallying the remains of the party in Africa, and Pompey's sons in Spain. So he throws a little shade at Pompey, which I guess you can. That's understandable. I mean, they are at war with each other, and who knows? Maybe that was to boost his own confidence as well, because he knows he's going to have to face him again at some point, even though he had won a battle against him, but he got away. I think we'll do one more. Paragraph 36. During the whole course of the Civil War, there's the answer. All right. May still ask somebody later, but he never once suffered any defeat, except in the case of his lieutenants, of whom Caius Cutio fell in Africa. Caius Antonius was made prisoner in Illyricum. Publius de Labella lost a fleet in the same Illyricum. Oh. And Gnaeus Domitius Culvinus an army in Pontus. In every encounter with the enemy where he himself commanded, he came off with complete success. Nor was the issue ever doubtful, except on 2 occasions. Once at Dyrrachium, when, being obliged to give ground and Pompey not pursuing his advantage, he said that Pompey knew not how to conquer. The other instance occurred in his last battle in Spain, when, despairing of the event, he even had thoughts of killing himself. Ah, okay. So if that's true, then we know that the great Julius Caesar had one time thought about unaliving himself. And it's kind of interesting. He says Pompey knew not how to conquer, but Pompey I think he was one of the most successful generals that Rome had at that time, if not, throughout its whole imperial era. So that's what, men are going to constantly down each other and cause problems. So a lot of this stuff really just seems par for the course. But it's interesting that whenever Caesar sends someone out, they don't win. But when Caesar leads the army, they win. I mean, it's pretty bad. You lose the whole fleet. So, sorry, Publius Dolabella, but that's rough, guy. But yes, I wanted to get that in quickly. I want to try to get through this and make March more regular time for me to do the reading of Suetonius, because I've also got Thucydides as well that I'm doing. And I hope if anybody watches this that you enjoy it. Maybe you got something from it. Again, I just give my opinions. I'm not an academic or a scholar of history, but I am enjoying reading it. And hope that you guys will join me in it. If you've never read it, hopefully you'll grab yourself a copy and take in these paragraphs, try to parse like I'm doing what part might be real and what's not. But other than that, I hope to see you all next time. Feel free to subscribe, like this video, let me know what you think, and I will hopefully see you folks sometime in the past. Later.